This is the ERP Advisor.
The ERP Advisor's overview of SAP.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today. This summer, ERP Advisors Group is spotlighting the most prominent vendors in the ERP software market. Today, we will be discussing SAP's offerings and providing key insights into our experiences with working with them. Welcome, Sean. Thanks for joining me today.
It's good to see you. Happy summer.
Happy summer. I like your pink shirt.
Thank you. Very Floridian. I was going to try to sit outside today to do the call with the beautiful palm trees behind, but I am not a Floridian.
No.
Too hot.
A little too hot for sure. In the middle of July, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Well, today we are covering in our vendor series SAP. SAP is, gosh, I guess we could refer to it as an ERP mammoth, right?
Yes.
It is a very huge platform.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's like sometimes with our clients, Juliet, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before on our calls, but very often when a client calls us, they say, or when we're doing a project with them and they're like, oh yeah, we've got a lot of Excel. And inevitably, they use Excel for this and they use Excel for that. But inevitably, there's always what we refer to as the Mac Daddy Excel sheet.
Oh.
Meaning the one that pulls everything together and everybody makes their decisions from. It could be for planning, like manufacturing planning, could be for financials. So SAP is the Mac Daddy of ERP vendors, unequivocally.
Yeah. So with that said, can you talk to us a little bit about who SAP is and what they do?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I think SAP is again, always open for corrections from the listeners out there, but SAP is the largest pure play enterprise software sort of ERP vendor in the world. So there's nobody else in the entire world, which says a lot. I mean, that's a big deal, right? This is hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars spent every year on ERP, and a lot of it is SAP. But that organization itself, which has over 100,000 people and has been in business, I think for 50 years, Rebecca's cheat sheet's showing me 1972.
Wow.
So that's a big deal. I mean, I love to see these organizations that are successful over time and adding tons of value and growing. And SAP is one of those for sure. So, we're talking about a very large organization, again, that just sells ERP, but a whole bunch of other related products too. We can get into that here in a little bit for sure on some of their other products are, because it's a lot. But you think enterprise software, the Goliath is SAP. That's who we're talking about. And this is interesting too on our notes here, systems analysis program development, I think is the original name, or so there's a German name too, system analysis program Entwicklung. I'm sorry, I apologize for hacking that up, but SAP actually does stand for something too. So you'll often see even SAP AG, which is a designation for corporation in Germany. So of course you've got, headquartered in Germany, but lots of offices throughout the world, lots of employees throughout the world, big presence in North America as well. That's sort of the high level on SAP.
Yeah. And with lots of clients around the world, right?
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure if we have the statistic on that, but my guess is that SAP has customers, maybe even in all 7 continents, right? Like even Antarctica, right? Like no other vendor probably would have that reach, does have the reach of SAP, just truly. So I don't know if they have customers in Antarctica, but they're certainly around the rest of the world for sure.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. What do they sell? Do they have multiple products they sell? Do they focus on a certain type of ERP system? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I can, yeah. I think the way to sort of go through this is to take a look at, how would I say this? SAP traditionally, I think this is the way to think about it. SAP traditionally was sort of had its foothold in manufacturing. That's where, when I think about my early career in the 90s, which, that wasn't that long ago, right? cool. But you saw a lot of SAP on the vendors that were or customers that were manufacturers, distributors for sure. So, goods kinds of companies, and really renowned in the area of manufacturing. And lots of different kinds of manufacturing, all the way from discrete manufacturing, making widgets, to process manufacturing, like making chemicals. SAP has really dominated in that area. But then also they've sort of expanded out really into almost every industry. So certainly heavy asset industries where we've got big trucks like mining. A lot of mining organizations are run on SAP. There's a lot of kind of getting out of products and into even services. There's a lot of services organizations that run SAP. We just selected SAP for a global services firm recently, based on some of the work they've done, SAP's done with some of the large Big Four management consulting firms. So a lot of stuff out there for sure that SAP really does position for a lot of industries, because as you can imagine, over time and a lot of resources, right? The market capitalization for SAP is mammoth. Maybe Rebecca could Google that and send it to me right now. But we have a lot of R&D that they invest back into the product. And so they're constantly building new solutions. And so we have better, not just industry solutions, but micro vertical solutions. So not just process manufacturing or batch process, which is hard, right? All of it's hard, but batch is tough. But they'll have batch processing specifically for life sciences and specifically for pharmaceuticals, right? Like these micro vertical solutions that SAP has built. And then of course, this is the thing I love the most about the software vendors, is that not only are there 100,000 people working on SAP, but there's probably, for SAP, I would say, especially if you include the big guys, there's probably 4x, 5x the amount of people in the market that are implementing SAP, building custom solutions within SAP, supporting SAP. Around the world, there's global organizations in areas where labor is a little less expensive that they specialize in supporting SAP. So, it's a big product and it's a big software vendor, but you also have these really large implementation partners around them and different kinds of support providers as well. SAP also offers those services too, but they have a huge channel of partners that help them with that.
Yeah. So with that said, Sean, let me ask you, what are the major features of SAP? Like, do they have specific features that are more attractive to one industry over another, or are their features pretty similar throughout the different products?
It's a really good question. The answer is yes.
Yes.
SAP has every feature you can possibly imagine, right? Even on this recent deal that we did, where we were looking at really specific billing methods for a pretty complex process, and SAP had the ability to do that out of the box with a little bit of configuration. So if you think about, the way we used to sort of think about ERP, and really the way we used to think about ERP was because this is how SAP implemented it, where there, of course, were main modules, right? There's always financials, right? And then, over time, SAP started, of course, with manufacturing and distribution and financials, and then there's projects modules. But over time, they've also they've purchased some other organizations. So they have some of the top human capital management functionality in the world with the SuccessFactors product, especially if you're integrating with SAP. They have a lot of analytics and business process management functionality they've developed and have purchased over the years. NetWeaver is an example of that, where you've got a platform that you can build out very complex process automations. They have robotic process automation platforms that's built into SAP. There's other areas too. There's analytics and reporting that's super strong with some of their analytics cloud solutions that they have. There's commission tools, there's marketing, there's actually even CRM in SAP too. Now, a lot of customers who use SAP will use Salesforce too, but you can still get a marketing cloud, or you can get a sales or service core in SAP as well. So, I mean, you can see all of the functionality of an organization automated in the SAP products. Of course, I think they call them, there's a material number is what SAP calls it internally, right? Then there's a product, there's a number, material number and a product, which makes up, basically, you can think about it like their order form, right? Here's all the products you can go. It's like going to a restaurant, say, oh, here, I want to see your menu. Well, SAP is, I mean, it's huge, right?
Right.
Again, covering everything from corporate performance management to CRM to human capital management to financials, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. And then there's the technical side too, the technical solutions that you get with that platform. So the interesting thing is it's like, again, we always try to play around with these analogies, but if you think about a house for a single family, it's going to have 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, whatever. It's going to have a certain amount of bathrooms and a certain amount of space. It could be big, it could be small, and but there's a range, right? SAP is like a house for like 1 million people. Like if you really wanted to house 1 million different kinds of users in one solution, you would have to build out this thing that would go really wide, right? It would cover a lot of areas, but it would also go super, super, super deep. So when we talk about SAP, and I'm really glad we're having this conversation, because a lot of people will gravitate towards SAP simply because that's what they used at the last big company that they worked with. And that's fine. That's a great reason, right? But what's happened is SAP's catalog of their products is so big, and now their offering is actually more rich and it's better. Like you can get more from them for sure, kind of out of the box is what I'm trying to say. Because before, and we should talk more about this in a minute, the upgrade challenge of SAP was so significant with some of their older platforms that a lot of people, even to today, still haven't upgraded those platforms. So there are some plans that SAP has to sunset some of their older solutions to get customers to go into the S4 solution, the new one. And so there's a lot of change that's happening in the SAP space too. But just for right now, I do want everybody to know, maybe there's a lot of stuff in there, and that's amazing, right? Do you need it all? Maybe not, right? And now the RISE program from SAP is sort of identifying that and saying, okay, well, especially for smaller clients, we can sort of bundle this down to something that's more consumable for you. So, when you think SAP and what they do, you basically say everything that's in enterprise software that's related to ERP kinds of solutions.
Right. Well, you kind of touched on this, and let me ask you, is because of the multiple platforms and all the industries that SAP covers, is it more of an all-inclusive type program or platform, or is it customizable for, like you mentioned, like a restaurant menu, like you could get different a la carte prices and pieces, what have you? Or is it more like you buy the platform and for your needs, but then there's probably more that you can grow into. Does that make sense? Like
makes perfect sense.
Or yeah, so maybe you're buying more than you need initially, but it's there if you need it.
Now that's a good point too. I mean, it's really both, right? You can so and we're really seeing this right now in the market with SAP, which is why people are probably listening to this video. So this question is spot on. The SAP software pricing is actually very effective against its competitors. It's very similar. So you can buy these modules or subscribe to them, right? Because you're going to pay for them every year. And it's good. It's good stuff, right? And the thing about it is maybe you do need more in the future. If a company is not fast growing, right? If they're under $500 million in revenue, maybe even under 250 million in revenue, and they're pretty flat, right? If they buy SAP, they're going to buy certain modules and they're probably going to stick to those modules, right? But a big reason why that same organization, even upwards of $1 billion, would really say, okay, I'm definitely going in on SAP is because they're growing. Because it is like the house, like we're getting into a house that has all kinds of features, right? Forget about like you wave your foot and the sink faucet comes in as I look at the sink where I'm at, right? Like that'd be cool, right? Well, that's simple. I mean, these guys have that handled. It's more like you think the thought and the water falls in SAP. Like they've got some of the smartest engineers on the planet building that product up, and some of the smartest partners that are building these solutions that are just fantastic. So you can sort of get the products you want, but then also grow with more. And it is a configurable platform. Now, I will say this, SAP's model of cloud deployment means that there's a certain amount of customizations that you can't make when you deploy it in their cloud solution. That's part of their cloud solution. And SAP is working I think, day and night to shift towards this model of having more installs in the cloud. And it's like, well, look, if you want to upgrade your instance, well, you can't customize as much because there's these general concepts in ERP that we talk about. And a lot of them are really based on SAP. One of those general concepts is don't customize. Because as soon as you customize the app, you can't upgrade it. Well, how do I get my tax reporting for next year if I can't upgrade? How do I keep all of the cybersecurity patches that you're putting into the software if I can't upgrade? How do I get additional feature functionality I need in the future if I can't upgrade? That's what happened to a lot of SAP customers over the years is they customized their products so much that then they couldn't upgrade and keep up with the upgrade path that SAP had. And they just had to stay. And they said, fine, we'll just stay on this. And SAP said, fine, we'll keep supporting your product up until, I want to say 2028. We have to check that date for sure. But there's some dates coming up in the late 2020s, we'll say for sure, where they're saying, we're not going to support R3 anymore. Right. But then there's other partners out there that will. So yeah, so it's a really interesting product because it is so pervasive throughout the world for ERP. So many customers have stayed on it because they have customized. But SAP finally, I think really in the last couple of years, to be honest with you, they've had cloud-based products before, but we're really seeing it in mid-sized customers, $1 billion and under. We're really seeing SAP S/4HANA Cloud come into play now. Like the last couple of years, pricing's gone down. The partners understand the platform. You can deploy it into a public cloud like Azure or into AWS. Rebecca, I think, just announced some of those things on our ERP Minute recently. So, you see this evolution that SAP is doing, but it's just like anything else that's big. It just takes time. You have 100,000 people. You have to change their mindsets.
Right. So everyone will be like, I don't want to use the word force, but they won't have a choice but to move to the cloud here in the next several years. Is that kind of what I'm reading into it?
That's what you're reading into. So it's tricky because it looks like as Rebecca, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Come on, Rebecca, you're amazing.
Awesome.
That it looks like it's, and you can listen, this is the thing. I even hesitate to, because you can look online. That's basically what she did also. And I'm actually looking at it too here, that basically there are going to be changes that are coming up for sure, unequivocally, absolutely, with different versions of SAP. There's the old R2. I don't think I've seen an R2 since Star Wars. Just kidding. But there is an R2, but R3, we've had clients on R3. There's clients on the ECC product, and there's different numbers, right? And each one has a number. You need to know what that is. And if there's a way in SAP to go and search on what you have, it's actually, I think, on the login screen. So once you have that, then you can search online, but you can also call SAP and say, hey, what's going on? Call the support number and figure it out. But remember, like I said, just because that product isn't going to be formally supported by SAP, that doesn't mean you have to get off it.
Right.
Because there will be other ways to get support. Now, the reality, right? Juliet, you and I know this. Sometimes you get into a relationship that you probably haven't, like, there's problems and you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. At least me. I don't know about you, but me. And that could be happening with somebody who's on one of these older products because they've had it for maybe 20 years.
Right.
A little bit's changed in the last 20 years, but they're like, oh my God, I went through the worst thing in the world was my ERP implementation with SAP, and I'm never doing it again.
Right.
I'm going to wait a couple years here and I'm going to retire. Right. We have people that say that, like, I'm not going to do the upgrade the next person here. So, but I really mean this when I say that there are really good options out there, including the RISE program from SAP that does drop your cost in the short term, I should say that. And there are partners that are doing a good job of doing these conversions from your old SAP to a new SAP instance. It's very real. So, I would rather that our public that listen to this get the information for themselves on when their product's going to be sunsetted, which it looks like some of them are in 2027, right? I think like ECC is supported through 2027 on standard support. Now, sometimes even like Oracle said, after that point, you can pay us more and we'll still support your product, right? So there's going to be something, but you really should just stop and look and say, is the software supporting my business or not? Because I think what happens often is customers will go look and they'll realize like, oh my gosh, we have all of this stuff that we're doing in the big kahuna spreadsheets.
That's right.
That are outside the system. And, our people, our new people, especially folks out of school, maybe a little bit younger in their career, they look at something like SAP and they're like, this is terrible. I can't do this. I'm leaving, or whatever. Maybe not that bad. But there's things about your product that are probably scary in the first place. And I even hesitate to say what I'm going to say now, but I'm going to say it. If you look at your fiduciary duty to the shareholders, to your boss, they don't know this stuff, right? So the technical people that do, the people that are going to listen to this call, they get this feeling in their stomach like, oh my gosh, what would happen if this thing went down? And the one person who knows all of our customizations is on vacation, right?
That's right.
We haven't upgraded our cybersecurity stuff. We can do it on the servers and the network and everything else, but on the software itself, we can't force password changes. I mean, that's a simple example. You can do that, but there's new multi-factor authentication, or there's other cybersecurity enhancements that, an app QuickBooks does, right? Just because it's small and simple, that SAP is catching up on. They're there in the newer versions, but they're not in your old one. And then, we've had that happen where clients get this attack, the app goes down, and the next thing that happens is somebody starts pointing the finger and saying, why didn't you tell me this was such a risk?
That's right.
Because I didn't want to do the implementation or whatever. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. Just get the data. We're always around. It's great SAP partners that we can get you in contact with that can give you the information on what you need.
Yep. Well, we've talked about this on many of our calls through the years, is just doing your due diligence and knowing what your needs are, and then kind of preemptively making the decision for yourself rather than being forced to. And then, right. And then.
And I would say, Julia, of all of the products that we've talked about and all the products we will talk about, that concept is the most important with SAP, because you're dealing with a house that's big.
Right.
If you're just going to get a little condo in somewhere, right? Like our little condo here, like it's not, whatever, right? But I mean, when you're dealing with this solution, everything about it is big. The product itself, the functionality it has is big. The technology architecture that runs it is big. It's built to scale to, tens of billions of dollars, right? Now you can scale it down for sure, for annual revenue transactions. So it's built for this, for business, right? I think they used to say SAP, there was a motto that I used to love, what was it? SAP runs business in America. I can't remember what it was, but it's super cool because it was like, something that was just like businesses run on best run business with SAP. The best businesses run SAP, and it's kind of true. Like these larger organizations, that had done really well were all on SAP. Now it's changed certainly over the years. But the bottom line is, really do your diligence with this product because it's just that important. It's just more important because the dollar impact and the risk impact is just bigger.
That's right. That's right. Well, Sean, let me ask you this. From your experience working with many clients through the years and with SAP, why does SAP tend to win over their competitors?
Yeah, I think there's probably four reasons why they win. The first one is feature functionality. Like I said, SAP does a great job on building out really good functionality that can meet really specific needs, right?
Mhm.
Then the second thing is, it goes right with that, is that it's easy to extend the product. So if you have, your like in this, again, this example I'm thinking with the billing process for this professional services firm, was here. Well, we needed it to go a little bit further. And man, the other vendors really couldn't do it. The SAP guys, boom, like overnight. They're like, oh, here's exactly how we would do it. So that's the second reason, is the platform is extendable, right? The third reason is because I really want to get to my fourth. I'm just going to go to my fourth and I'll come back to the third.
Okay.
Because we used it before and it was great. That's a big reason why a lot of organizations go to SAP, is because they used it before. I was at a large mining company and now I'm at a startup or a junior mining company, so I'm going to use SAP. Okay, that might not be the right answer, but I used it before. So the third thing that I would say is the channel partners, that there's really good firms. And we've talked a lot about that with some of the other vendors too.
Right.
But the SAP partners tend to be, there's tiers of partners. Again, everything's the same. It's just more complex and deeper with SAP. Mm-hmm. There's tiers of partners, right? There's global SAP partners. They work with companies globally around the world, right? There's regional, like country specific or multi-country partners that deal with North America, South America, right? Or Europe and Asia, or just Asia or whatever, like they deal in continents, right? Then there's partners that are a little more focused around maybe a specific country, right? Then you even have some smaller partners too, because you got to remember also, Juliet, that we're 30 minutes in here or so, and I probably should have said this earlier, but there are multiple platforms, ERP platforms for SAP also, right? And some of those are scaled to work with smaller businesses. So, and there's partners that support those products too. So that's the third thing I would say. So feature functionality, extendability to partners, and then because I always used it. There's
the familiarity of it.
Yeah. There's also the technology platform is strong and we can customize, we can build a bunch of stuff. That's sort of the fifth, maybe for a larger company that has an RPA analyst, right? A robotics process automation analyst, just a person who sits around and builds bots. Literally, some organizations have that. And that kind of person just goes, oh, I love SAP, because there's so much technical assets that they can play around with and work with.
Yeah. So Sean, you mentioned this at the very beginning about SAP, like really working to improve their product, that they do a good job with that. Like, are there any offerings that you would like to see from them in the future?
Well, the S/4HANA cloud is great. I'm in no position to even offer anything on that product because it's got everything, right? As you think of other characters around and Saturday Night Live and stuff. It's got everything.
Right.
And they're doing a really good job, especially I think it took a leadership change to really say, we aren't going to just sell big deployments of SAP. We need to be able to sell SAP to this mid-size organizations around the world and get the footprint bigger of our customer base, interestingly. But that's S/4HANA Cloud, right? Then there's also SAP by Design, which is a pure cloud solution, ERP, that I don't know if it was purchased or if they wrote that. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But SAP by Design is sort of focused on different different verticals also. Different partners do different things. That product, we've implemented that once, or recently, I should say, in recent times. And it was a challenge, but it was good. The concepts, like the basics in there were good. But I'm not sure how much is going into the development of that product. So we'll see. And then the next one down is called SAP Business One. Which is definitely targeted towards smaller organizations, distributors mostly. Again, a really good, solid product, but from a development perspective, it's a bit more complex, and there's some opportunity there. So ultimately, I would say just continue SAP with refining your offering so it's more approachable by a less sophisticated organization that doesn't have, a larger IT staff or a significant amount of people that they can put towards the deployment. That's what I would like to see happen for sure. And I think they're working on it.
Yeah. Well, Sean, thank you as always. You are such a wealth of knowledge. We could keep talking about SAP for a long time. Maybe we'll have to circle back on another webinar for
There
sure.
you go. That sounds great.
Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you.
Yes. So be sure to join us and continue to be on the lookout for our multi-part series this summer that will help advance your ERP knowledge and allow you to take advantage of over a century of combined ERP experience from our expert consultants here at EAG. Thank you again for joining us today.